These are the critical lab tests that every entrepreneur must get. Working with entrepreneurs for the past 10 years, there's definitely four main areas that I see as a problem with their health that we have to test for to see what's going on. And those four main areas that come up over and over again is one is going to be sleep issues, so trying to get sleep optimization. It's also going to be energy issues, so fatigue. So we're trying to optimize their energy. And then, of course, a big one is going to be cognitive performance. And so, therefore, they're looking to be more focused, productive, to be more consistent, so they can be really good entrepreneurs and business owners and CEOs so that they aren't the bottleneck to their business. The other big one is, of course, stress, to be able to manage stress. Now, there's always going to be stress. I get this being an entrepreneur myself. You always are going to deal with stress. It's just how do you manage the stress that you are experiencing? And so it's very important to look at some of these tests. So the first thing that we need to look at is, of course, sleep. How can we optimize our sleep and what do we need to be testing for? What are some of the big things that need to look at? Now, if you haven't done a sleep study, that's obviously going to be a big one to check for things like sleep apnea. But what I'm talking about in today's video is what are the blood work that you could be doing, or saliva testing or urine testing, like different types of lab tests that you can be doing to understand more about the body chemistry imbalances of your sleep situation. So first off, the one that I would say is, you probably have taken melatonin. Maybe you've tried it, but with no avail, probably have not gotten some success with it. Maybe you have, but the thing is we have to understand, how is melatonin made? Well, it is part of the serotonin pathway. So serotonin is going to be obviously a big culprit to this, but before that, 5-HTP comes into play, and then even before that, tryptophan. So tryptophan is something that I like to test for to see, okay, is there an issue of deficiency in tryptophan levels? If there is, this can cause issues with serotonin. It can cause issues with melatonin. So that's something that we should be looking out for. Another one to look at is your stress levels. And something that I like to test for is testing your cortisol levels throughout the day. And so your cortisol should be, very good in the first time when you wake up in the morning, and then it kind of dips down throughout the day. And then it's at nighttime, it should be the lowest. And so when you're testing it for four different variations, now you're going to have to go to a functional medicine doctor, because your standard doctors are not going to run an adrenal test to test the adrenals throughout the day. So look for a functional medicine doctor that's going to do this, or we do this with our patients and clients if you're looking for further help from us. So what you need to understand is, let's say there is issues where, it might be just fine, maybe first thing in the morning, and then, it kind of dips down, and then all of a sudden it spikes in the night. If it spikes in the night, that is going to be a big culprit to your sleep situation. And because your cortisol levels cannot be high at night, it won't allow you to go to sleep. It actually will prevent for melatonin to kick in. And that's going to be an issue. And so it's really good to test for this to see if that could be a possibility. Another one to also look out for that I think is really important is looking at liver enzymes. And this is a pretty standard test that you can run through your primary care doctors, is to look at liver enzymes. Now, why this is important, along with also looking at your cortisol levels, so like a lipid panel, is to see if the liver is functioning properly. Now, why is the liver important when it comes to sleep? Because if you're waking up in the middle of the night, anytime between 2 and 4 a.m. in the morning, it's possibly that your liver is being activated, and also possibly your gallbladder. It's what we call liver gallbladder time, and it's waking you up and disrupting your sleep. And so it's very important to look at that, and possibly look at some digestive panels that could be also active, which is making your sleep very difficult. Some other really big ones that I think are really important to be testing for is looking at some hormones. Now, this is going to apply more to women, but looking at estradiol, and also looking at progesterone, and also DHEA. Now, why is this important? Because if these are off, it can disrupt your sleep drastically. And so we want to make sure these are not out of balance, and to definitely fix those. DHEA also does help make estradiol, so that's why it's important to test for that. Now, the next one that we need to test for is to optimizing our energy. So there is several other different tests that we need to be looking for when it comes to optimizing our energy and understanding why you are burnt out mentally and physically. And so there are several different micronutrient tests that I think are so vital to understand the root cause of why you are feeling tired. And that is testing for iron, ferritin, vitamin B6, B12, and also B3. All these different B vitamins are critical for methylations. It's critical for providing energy through our cells. It's also very important for a lot of different neurotransmitters that could be the culprit to your low energy situation, which I'll get into here and more in a minute. But also some big ones is also magnesium and also vitamin D3. So definitely these two, when I see these deficient, it becomes a big problem for my entrepreneur patients to get energy. But when we can fix this can make all the difference. So it's why it's so important to test for these. Now, there's some other really big ones that I think a lot of people think that they got covered, but they have not. And that is looking at the thyroid. So a lot of people will test for TSH and say, okay, they were normal. My doctor said they were fine, but there's other tests that we need to be testing for to really rule in or rule out a thyroid situation, because that could be contributing to your low energy situation. So some of these other tests that you want to test for is for free T3, free T4, and also anti-TPO, and also reverse T3. This will give you a better picture to really understand, is it more of a thyroid situation or not? And then, of course, hormones do impact energy drastically. And so some of those big ones are going to be testosterone and also DHEA. And this both applies for sure for both males and also females. And so you want to make sure that this is not an issue, because this definitely will be contributing to your low energy situation. But another really big one, just like I was talking about before when it comes to sleep, is testing for your cortisol. Because if your cortisol levels, like it should be good, like I said, when you first wake up, and then it starts dropping off throughout the day, and then the lowest at night. But let's say it is flat, it's just super low in the morning, and it's just super low throughout the day. Or maybe it's fine here, but then it drops off in the middle of the day. Like, you got to understand what is going on here. And this is probably why you have low energy and you can't be focused throughout the day as an entrepreneur because of your low energy situation. So you want to be testing for this. Now, next group of tests would be on your cognitive performance. So how is your brain functioning? How is it able to process with focusing, having good memory, being productive, having that consistency? All of these things are really important for being an entrepreneur. And so some of the big tests that I think of, and a lot of people think of when it comes to having more motivation, drive, and focus, is dopamine. But the thing is, how is dopamine made, and what should we be testing for to see if that is the issue? So with dopamine, L-Dopa is obviously one of the biggest things that do help make dopamine. But even before that, we have tyrosine. And so tyrosine sometimes can be an issue and something that I like to test for. But even before tyrosine, there's also something that helps make tyrosine, which is phenylalanine. And so sometimes it's really good to see if those levels are low, because it's more of an essential amino acid. But even before that, there's an excitatory type of neurotransmitter called phenylethylamine. And so all three of these are really important to test for to see if it could be contributing to a low dopamine situation on your hands. But some other really important other vitamins that should be tested for, and this is what we call as cofactors, ingredients to helping a lot of these different neurotransmitters to have a better functioning brain that has that great cognitive performance that you do want. And that is things such as like vitamin B6, like I mentioned before, because it is used, guess what, in every one of these steps right in between here to help make dopamine. And so it's absolutely required. And so some other ones is things such as like also vitamin B3, also vitamin C should be tested for, as well as vitamin D as well, because both of those are also important cofactors for helping and making and modulating a lot of these different neurotransmitters, as well as zinc and also iron. Those are also very important. So if you're deficient in any of these and you test for them, that could be the reason of why your cognitive performance is not to its optimal range that you would like to see it at. Another thing that you need to consider is what if you're having some memory issues, and some things that you should be looking into is testing for serine and also for choline levels. So if these are low, it could be contributing to your memory situation. So those are some other really great ones to test for. Now, one other thing that I think is also very important that isn't even thought about when it comes to cognitive performance is testing for hemoglobin A1C, as well as testing for insulin. Now, why is that important? Because both of these have a lot to do with sugar and regulating our blood sugar levels. And the thing why that is important is because blood sugar should be stable. It really shouldn't be going up and down and spikes and up and down and all over the place, because guess what? That will make your focus and consistency up and down throughout the day. and therefore hitting these crashes all the time. It does impact your sleep. It does impact your energy. It also does impact your stress, which we're going to talk about here next. So stress is the next category that we are testing for to see how can we optimize our stress management. Obviously, therapy and other different biohacking things like neurofeedback and stuff like that are great. But what I want to be looking at is what can we test for as far as blood tests and other testing to understand what is the root of the stress situation. And so the very first thing that I think of is taurine. Now, why taurine? Because taurine is an important amino acid for building specific different neurotransmitters that relate to stress, and that being GABA. Going to feel a lot more stressed out. So if the taurine levels are low and that helps make GABA, there's going to be an issue here. Another big one is also vitamin B6. So you probably see a common theme here that vitamin B6 is pretty dang important for entrepreneurs to test for. So this is why I put a high stress on this, because it is so vital for every single one of these categories. Another one is looking at glutamine. So glutamine also does help make GABA. And so therefore, if glutamine levels are low, it's going to be very difficult to increase your levels of GABA to managing your stress. And just like I said before, there's other ingredients that help with this process. Also testing for SAMe, because that does help with GABA and other different neurotransmitters for managing stress, and as well as magnesium, which is also very important. This is why people find that when they take magnesium at night, it helps relax them, probably because they're deficient in it. And so another one on top of this, with all the things that we've talked about, is also testing for cortisol. So cortisol, if anything, that is definitely a big one to really check out to see if your cortisol levels are spiked. So like with testing, if it's spiked in maybe the middle of the day, maybe that's why you're really stressed, but you can't really know that until you do test for this. But yeah, you have to have a functional medicine doctor that's going to be able to test for this, or it's something that we do with our patients and clients, and we'll run these tests for you. But I mean, this is an exhausted list. And so if you want my full list of all these different labs, you can download my free entrepreneur lab guide in the description below. Or better yet, if you want a more customized understanding of what labs that you should be doing for your own health to become a focused and energized entrepreneur so that you are not the bottleneck of your business, you should book a consultation with me or with one of my health experts in the description below. You can click on that link in the description below so that you can see how we can help you out. I hope this was helpful for you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks. Bye.